Need to introduce myself. You all know who I am, and the write-ups and everything that everybody gave me is great. Obviously, you know I'm from New Mexico and been turning for 19 or 18, 17 years. And like my pin says, I'm addicted to wood turning. So, hi. And it's true. I am. It's just my passion. I love it. I've done flat work and been a carpenter all my life, a rough carpenter. And when I got my first lathe, I started getting rid of my flat working stuff. It just went bye-bye because the lathe was taking up all my time. And now I incorporate a little bit of both into it still, but most of my tools are all lathe-based, I should say. What we're going to do tonight is these. These are toothpick holders that I make. I first seen this, I can't think of the fellow's name now that did the demo. He did a demo here for us. I believe it was here. Who? Todd Raines. Yep. So this is a whiskey barrel. That was his design. Neat little design, and it's made to be a box. It was actually made to be a toothpick holder, but I didn't make this one long enough, so it won't hold toothpicks, so it's a box. And since it's a box, I should probably make that cut out a lot longer, but that's okay. It was my first one. I made another whiskey barrel. I love the design. I love the way he did it. This one's a Jack Daniels barrel. I made my own logo for the next one, and I burnt this in with a laser. The next one I did, I made the logo, and it was the Tree of Life, and it said Asgard Ale. I thought that was neat, kind of catchy. They're fun. The fun part about them is not only this one feels really good in your hand. It's my favorite design, I think, of them. And you pull them up. You normally take your toothpick out, and you just let it go, and it finds its way home on its own. And it's just very satisfying. It really is. I'll pass that one around. Just try not to drop that one. This is probably my second favorite one out of it. I really like this one too. And for me, when I look at a turning, is what do I like? That's my first question. If I like it, what do I like about it? That one, I like the feel of it in my hand. That's what I like about that one. It just feels good. The wax on it, the wax finish just makes it feel softer and feel good in your hand, and the shape accents that. That's what I liked. This one, I like the fluting, and I like the four-sided finial. That's what gets me for this one, and that's what I like about it. We'll pass that one around too. These two are nice boxes in themselves. They're just a little bit more plain. So my point is, you can do the outside box whatever shape you like. It can be a barrel, it can be this shape like this one, or it can be the shape like a pear like that one going around the first one. Those are the three shapes I've settled on. There's more. You could do a square box, you could do, you pick it. The choice is yours on what you want to do for the box part of it. The key features here is we need this cavity inside of here to be 3.5 inches long. So you have to keep that in mind when you're designing your box. And I like to make the lid the same material, which means if you're going to do that, you need another 1.5 inches or so to make that happen. So we need 3.5 inches plus at least a 1/2 inch on the bottom. So that's 4, plus we need another 1.5 inches up top. We need 5.5, 6 inches. I start with a 3-inch blank. I think that works out well for these. So it's a 3x6. We started with this. We also need another block. I like something that's closed grain and easy to wipe down, because you got food related things in it. So you want to be able to wipe your fingerprints off of it occasionally. Maple is nice and dense, and it will drill well, and that's what we're going to be doing, is using a Forstner bit to drill the hole in these. So we need something that's going to drill well without pulling grain out. Like the pine or something like that would be probably a poor choice, or closed grain or open grain would probably be a poor choice. When we start these, I mark the centers on each end, use a center point mark and mark the ends. I start them between centers. And all of my boxes, when I've just found out that it doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I'm making a box, I turn a tin on each end right away. Not only that, I want the same center on each end marked. So this is a live center set. It's a matching live center set. They're the exact same diameter. So they're reversible, so I could switch this blank around and it'll find the true center every time. I think that really helps in the fit of things in the end, because almost every time you're going to need to reuse that center mark to probably clean up the bottom on the box, or for something along the way, you're probably going to want to do that. Yes, the live center set. Yeah, so this set came from a company called Wood Turning Wonders. Yeah, they're in New York. It's like $40 for the set, which isn't bad, and it's a axe minister set, so they're good quality. They're great to start it with. So I use them to start my centers on. So now I have a divot on each end, and I go ahead and I turn my tenon on them. I like to use. I personally, if I had 3 chucks, I would use all 3 of them. If I only have 2, which is all I have tonight, I'm going to use 2. We have 3 parts to make. So it makes it easier when you have enough chucks. It doesn't make it, you can still do it with 1. It just means that I have to take my piece out, mark my jaws each time, make sure I go back in the same place to get true eccentricity. So I think that's that. I would like to, I prefer using, again, something that's a nice material. I've been using a lot of exotic woods or a lot of spalted woods, or in this case ambrosia maple, something with some unique feature I think is desirable. So I've already did half the work here, and I did that because at the end, if I have some time, I would like to go over fluting on a wood lathe. I'm not saying I'm going to get there, but we're going to try. So I went ahead and shaped it to, this one would make something similar to that pear shape that's coming around. I went ahead and shaped that to pretty much the outside shape, and I started shaping the lid a little bit. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it for right now. And we're going to go ahead and part it off, which all of you can know how to do that, I think. It's pretty easy. At home, I would probably go all the way through. Up here, it would probably cause disaster, so I won't, because it's a demo. Okay. We can set this aside. If I had a third chuck, I would probably go ahead and put it in it. We're going to go ahead and just clean the bottom off real quick. And I'm just going to use a badan and go do a straight cut down just to get rid of that bump on the outside. And I'm just scraping with it there. And now we're going to bring this up. And I usually leave it loose and let it find center. Once it finds center and I'm touching and I'm putting pressure on it, now I can lock it in place, add a little more pressure, and it should run true. And now we have a new divot mark that we can start with, and that'll help us when we start drilling. So it's a good thing to have pretty much your final shape at this point, and maybe part of your sanding done if you need to get tool marks out. This would be a good place to do that. I've already taken that into account and did most of it. One thing I would like to do is just, I like this top rim sloped a little bit further in because I don't think our recess is going to quite go to there. So I'm going to use a spindle gouge I'm straight up in the air right now till I get started, and then I'm going to open it up. And then we're going to just try to almost rub that bevel. So whatever shape we decide to go with here, try to work with one that you think you're going to like and try to leave it there. You can modify it later, I guess, if you had to, but we'll go ahead and back this up now. Elbow saver. Yes. Absolutely. Down? Like that, or? Okay, so how are we there? Okay. So now we're going to actually, we have our center point, so our drill bit should actually go right in there. So I start with a 1/2 inch drill bit. I guess we don't need that on there now. We're going to start with a 1/2 inch drill bit and a Jacob's chuck. I've marked this one already. I know from experience we want at least 3 1/4, and right now my red tape is at 3 and a little over 1/4, so we're good. This is for a toothpick box. If you're making a regular box, you can make it as deep as you want. In fact, you could probably make any box that you wanted to make and use 2 drill bits. I'm going to use 1 1/8 and a 1 inch to create our thing tonight, our box tonight. You could use a 3/4 and a 5/8, a 7/8 and a 3/4. It's your choice. But they need to be 1/8 of an inch different if we're going to try to get a similar concept as what's going on in that one. So I like to drill with a regular drill bit at around under 600 RPM or so. And we're going to just make sure it starts, and then we're going to drill up to there. Is the light okay still? Okay. Go in a little ways and back out. There may be some squealing tonight. I would like to say that nobody wants to watch me drill, but unfortunately drilling is a big part of this process. It's boring. It's like sanding. It's like sanding. You know what? Sanding is part of this process tonight too. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to this. So I have a cheap set of Harbor Freight Forstner bits at home, and I've used them for years. And decided not too long ago that it's time to start thinking about some real bits, especially if I'm going to do stuff like this where I want to finish from the bit. I researched what is the best bit for end grain, and there's studies. A guy did some studies on YouTube where he actually drilled thousands of holes with like the top 4 manufacturing bits, fish bits, one in every category. These things are razor sharp and they cut fantastic. Now, fish like F-I-S-C-H. I will say one thing right here. I already missed a step. Normally when you want to drill a step drill with a Forstner bit, if you're going to step drill with a Forstner bit, you should start with your biggest one, put a hole 1/8 of an inch deep with it, back it out, go down a 1/2 inch in size, do it again with the same bit, 1/8 of, or that bit 1/8 of an inch deep, go down a 1/2 inch in size, do it again. That's how you step drill with Forstner bits. Then you take your smallest bit to depth, and then you take your next size, and it will find the hole now because you have that 1/8 inch recess. It'll find its hole. I don't have a recess here for this to travel and find its hole, so it may wobble a little bit to start because I didn't do that. So that's a key. Go ahead.
Can you just use a skew or box cutter and just cut
I could. I'd have to be precise at that outside. It's the outside that makes the, yeah. But you would have to do that. I know from doing this enough times that I can get away with it here because this bit likes to track pretty well. So I'm guessing that it's going to jump right in, and because it's so sharp, it's going to make its way. And it didn't move at all. So we already found its center and we're good. So when I do drilling with these guys, I'm down to between 200 and 300. 250 to 350 is what they say. That right there is 284. The key is not to get these bits hot. So I have an extension on here. It's a short extension. It's like 3.5 inches long. I picked it up off of Amazon. And sorry about that.
Woodcraft has those extensions too.
Okay, Woodcraft has them too. I don't like the super long ones. I would not put a super long one in here because it wants to drift more. Told you there was going to be some squealing. And we're going to go right up to our red tape. Okay, so that's that one. That was a big one, right? Yep, okay. If you catch them on sale, I caught these bits on sale. They were like $60 for a 7-piece set, which was a steal, because they're normally, I think, $100. But the set stops at 1 inch, so I had to buy 1 1/8, and it was like an extra $20. Uh-oh. There we go. So now is the time we wanted to really look down in this hole and see how clean it is. And I brought my air compressor. Yeah, that's fact. So I've got a little bit of tool marks right here on the outside. It looks pretty clean. So I picked this up, I don't know where. The handle is made by me. This is one of the small 1/4 inch. It's a arbor chuck for a drill, so it has a 5-sided drill end on it or whatever. So you can chuck it up in a drill, and I drilled the hole a little bit bigger and epoxied it in and made the handle. It'll go up to a 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4 inch mandrel. It's 3 inches long. I found this one, I don't remember now. I want to say like Timber Bits or somebody had it. I like it. So when we do it, we want to turn, to begin with, we just want to get the big scratches out. We're going to start real low. Entering is a little bit tricky because it can grab and want to wobble on us. So we kind of have to go dead center in, not touch, and then touch the bottom. And now we can just work our way in and out with it. This is going to get the scratches out that are down lower that I can't get around the rim. And just make it a little bit nicer surface for when we go in. So you get the idea there. I've still got a little bit of scratches there. And I typically would just take it now and run it with the grain to try to get out any of my sanding scratches. Just keep rotating it by hand, and it'll basically keep it fairly round. So you get that process. I'm going to stop there. At that point, since I've got an outside scratch, I would probably come over here and grab some paper and just hit that outside just a little bit to clear that one little ring that'll drive me crazy if I don't. And then I'm just going to come back in here with this. Again, parallel with the grain. and I would get them out until it's good. We're going to call that good for the demo. Now, the next part is the box top has a little recess in it that it needs to line up in to kind of fall down in its hole nicely. And we're going to put that in. So this is a 1/4 inch piece of steel off Amazon, so it's really good quality steel. And it's ground just like a scraper would be, I think. We're at 25 degrees on each side, so it's a 50-degree together. And we're going to just come in, and I need to make that recess about an 1/8 inch deep. And you can see we're cutting okay there. I can tell you that I put a burr on it. When I put a burr on it, I normally put the burr up towards the handle, so we were using it wrong. It'll probably cut better here. See, it cuts a little better there. I'm trying to stay parallel to the lathe bed. And we want to go in, it doesn't have to be that far, but maybe almost an 1/8, and have a clean edge that's parallel. And that looks okay. I think we're good there. So now we have a place for the lid to drop down in, instead of, if we wind up with a little bit of wobble on it, it just sitting on top and not being centered. Now it's centered. So that's the idea behind that. Okay, that's good. We're good there. The next thing is, this is where 3 chucks come in handy. Normally I would leave this in this chuck. Inch and an 1/8. So normally I would have 3 chucks, and that's because that just makes it easy for me. And we would do it that way. Tonight we're going to be using 2 chucks, which means at some point I'm going to have to take this turning out of here, which is fine. But for now, we're done working on this piece. We're going to set it to the side. This needs to be the first piece you work on, though. We need these 2 holes because we're going to use those to match the lid up with. Now we're going to go to chuck number 2. And I've turned it round. It started out as an 1.5 inch by 4 inch blank square, and this is maple. It's just 8/4 stock. That gives me just enough to chuck it up. I just use a square in, make sure it's a nice square piece of maple so that your chuck jaws will grab it evenly. We turned it round. The next thing, this did not have a divot in this back end. We don't need it in this case, which I can say that because I made a lot of them, but it usually bites me in the, you know what, if I don't have a divot in both ends at some point. But I know that with this one we should not need one, but we need this drill chuck again. Now we're going to come in and we're going to drill a hole 1 inch, and we're going to drill it 3 and I think it's an 1/8, 3 and an 1/8 inch deep.
What's the outside diameter of that piece right now?
This piece?
Yeah.
Approximately 1.5. It started out 1.
So you're going to turn that down until it fits in the hole.
Correct.
Okay.
And trust me, I've done this a few times. We want to do the drilling first. If you do the drilling last, it blows it out way too easily. So this is a 1 inch bit. It's not so unfriendly with cutting with it that we have to drill a pilot hole. I can usually get by with a 1 inch, but anything over that I'd like to do 2 holes. So, and we're going to go down to 300, something like that with this bit, and let it find its spot. And then we're good to go. Now, I can tell you right now that I need to bottom this out because I have a mark on here and I can't see it. So we're going to go all the way. If you notice it's starting to plug up, just pull it back out. I'm trying to keep the noise level down. We're going to go to about right there, and then we're going to pull it out. And I'm going to pull this out to my mark. This is 3 1/4, just so you know, we're going to be grabbing by about 1/4 inch. So I like to start the hole first with the bit all the way in, because if it's off at all, it'll want to travel. And we don't want it to travel, we want it to follow that hole, find that hole. So we're literally 1/4 inch we're grabbing with the end. You're welcome to use your extension if you want to. That works too, but somehow we got to get that in there. All right, now we're going to go the rest of the way. So this is the inside of the box part that we're doing right now, if you haven't figured that out. Okay. We're done with the drilling part of everything. Now the fun part. These are a little bit tricky. I've only blown up a couple of them. I say that now because it's possible. Hopefully it doesn't happen though. So I can tell you also right now would be a good time. I'm not going to do it tonight, but blow the sawdust out, look down in it. If it's got lines, you got to get them out. So now's the time you sand them out. A little small hand sander like I've got there, your finger just by hand with the lathe knot running, and just sand them out. It doesn't take long. Especially if you're using good bits. If you're not using good quality bits, you're going to have more sanding to do. So when we get to here, this is a key feature, or a key part. We can't put too much pressure here. If we put too much pressure, it's going to want to blow it out when we get too thin. It's going to want to crack it or blow it out. It's going to cause vibration. It's going to be bad things happening. So we need to not put a whole lot of pressure on it. And to do that, we're going to start the lathe, and we're going to back off till we just start spinning and make good contact, and that's where we're going to leave it. It just supported the whole way when it starts spinning. I like to use, go back to this 1/4 inch tool. Raleigh Lockhart is the one that's responsible for this tool. He uses them on his acorn boxes a lot, and I blame him for getting me addicted to using them too. They're actually a great little tool, especially for boxes and stuff. And they're multi-use. So this guy I will use as kind of as a shear scraper. I will also use it as a peeling scraper to go ahead and peel this off. And I can also use it for, like, I use it on the outside of these boxes as a skew for shaping down that wrong edge, and it makes a nice clean cut. So they're just great. The key with them is that we don't want to take off too much at one time. We don't want to make full contact with the whole width of the tool. So to do that, I'm going to start with a point, and now I'm making contact with the point, and I'm using the bottom part of that edge. Now I'm going to come into about right there. That leftover 1/4 inch is going to stay that full thickness until I get to the thickness that I want. That's extra support. Now I can come back the other way and just start peeling my way down here. So the vibration you're hearing there is when I'm making full contact with that blade. And we want to try to minimize that, especially the thinner we get. Now at some point here we need to stop before we go through. And make sure that the inner diameter here does not exceed. Yeah, you get the idea. So we want to take our calipers and measure the inside here. And we know that it should be right around 1 1/8, right? And it's right on 1 1/8. So I'm going to set this just a hair over 1 1/8. And I'm going to check where I'm at on all 3 spots. And always 3 spots at least. And we've got a long way to go. So we're going to continue on. See if we can make this happen a little bit faster, because we have a lot to go. I've used a skew doing this. If you're good with a skew, great, go for it. If you're good with a spindle gouge and you can keep it nice and straight, great, go for it. Use what tool works for you. This works the best for me. I've used a skew as a scraper as well, to try to keep it straight with get any bumps out. And I find out that you wind up engaging too much of that edge when you're doing that, and you get too much chatter. Chatter is bad. Chatter is vibration. Vibration is bad when you have thin walls, because it will crack or it'll blow up or something will happen. So we want to minimize chatter. My tool rest is also parallel here as much as I could get it. Pretty close to what I could get anyhow. So we should wind up, if I'm using my finger as a guide, I should be able to keep it fairly parallel. I'm usually leading with that corner, the front corner. And that's what I'm using to peel with. When we get a little bit thinner, you see how I dug in those 3 spots. We want to try to avoid that. So we lighten up the touch some. Ooh. So we're good on this end. Now remember, I went a little bit bigger than that. So that's why. Because I'm always a little too aggressive, and that gives me a little fudge factor. So I know right now I don't want to touch this top for, well, just that from there to there. So that first ½ inch is kind of a no-fly zone right now. I'm going to actually clean that one spot up on it, though. There we go. All right, and this is like fitting a box top. You do just a little bit and you stop and check it, because you can't go back and put it back on. What was the question? I'm using it as a scraper. So we're good, and we're good. We're good the whole way. We're a little smaller here than we are. We're good here and here, and we're a little bigger here. We're going to take it just a hair more down here. We had that fudge factor, so we should be okay. And it's a darn good thing we put it in there. Yeah, I think we're good. So we're going to take that. The next thing is we're going to make sure that our touch is about as light as we can get it right here now. And still be supporting. Now I'm peeling, to answer your question, I'm peeling. See, you hear that vibration? We need to go a little bit tighter. We don't want that vibration. That means we're not supported. Okay. Now is the time that you would, actually it's not, you wouldn't worry about that yet. So now is the time that we're going to come over here, back this away, and we're going to take our box here, and we're just going to kind of test fit and make sure that we're not way too small. Way too big is okay. Way too small is not good. So we're plenty good. We could actually probably take off a little bit more and be safe. It is, yeah, it's stopping. So I will go ahead and instead of doing it the tooling way, we're going to use sandpaper as the tool, and this is just 120, and I'm not going to use support, I'm just going to be light. And below 1,000 is what I sand at. Here, I don't want to come in here with my sandpaper and my finger under it because I'm going to create low spots and high spots. This is where you're going to follow the shape of the tool, and you're going to let your sandpaper follow the shape. That flat edge is going to follow that. So we're going to just start right there and let it go. So I'm just pulling down on both sides right in the middle to keep it even pressure. Sorry guys in the front row, it's dusty. I didn't promise no sanding. To get that fit that we want, there's only one way to do it. You're never going to hit it at the sweet spot every time without sanding. I don't care how good you are. You're going to have to do some sanding to get that sweet spot. So we want to get it at least close or to where it will go down with me pushing on it. And we're still too tight. It's a good time to also look to see, and I just loosen my calipers up, and it's going over here, right? So I'm tightening them down here, and I just want to see how much bigger I am where I go over. So it's about the same the whole distance. If it wasn't, I would probably cut a narrower piece of sandpaper and say work from here this way, right? Because I don't need to touch the other part. But we seem to be about the same width the whole way. And because this is a demo, and we want to do this a little faster, this is 80 grit. So we got the 80 grit gouge now. Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
It's your hole, not your box. It's the hole because you hand sanded the edge of your
Correct. Absolutely, that is correct. We did hand sand barely that edge. Yep, and that's probably what's doing it, and that's fine. But that still means that we're too tight down low, and we got it in the box. But we can do it here, and it makes no difference. We can. Yeah, and we can take it up here, and we're going to do some sanding in there to take it up. But it's easier right now because I still have this on the lathe. So I'm going to go ahead and do most of it there. Marty is correct, though, that the right way to do it would be to put that back in and use that drum and sand it with it to get it more parallel again. And if I was at home, I probably would take the time to do that, but I'm not going to throw that back on the lathe right now. And I guarantee you, at the end of this, we're going to wind up still doing that. Because I'm going to get it close here to where it'll go on, and it's still not going to be enough to go down slowly when we get that exact fit at the end. And if this is not going to fit, we may just go to a gouge, but I'd rather not. Okay, see, we're fitting. Now we went all the way up. We're good. So we can stop there. That's what we're after. Now, next thing. So we got this, and we needed this for one of the next steps as well. So that's not going to work. So we're going to take this back off. This is where 3 chucks come in handy. If I had the 3rd chuck right now, I would put it on empty and put the top in it. Because we don't, we have to do this. Now I've already marked the number 1 jaw here. It's a record chuck. It's the SC1 with a spindle adapter. With a spindle adapter. This is a spindle adapter on the end. It's a 1x8 thread. So it's was for my other lathe. So now we're on the top. Where did I put the top? There it is. Weird I don't have the divot there. But that's okay. We're going to put one in it. I parted it off over here though. Oh, no I didn't. I parted it off there. That's correct. That's why. Duh. I knew that. Okay. So now our objective, the next objective, besides cleaning up the bottom, is to come and find the box and come and find this part. For the first thing we need to do is the first step, which is this. So we want to open that up. It's a little bit under 1 inch. We're going to go just a hair over. And we're going to clean that up. Yeah. Yeah, I think they said I don't remember how much tolerance there's supposed to be in them, but there's a little bit of a fudge. Sorry, was there a question? Yeah. I forget now. Somebody was complaining about that. I just bought this $100 set of bits and a 1/2 inch doesn't fit a 1/2 inch magnet. I don't know what it was, something like that. And they were complaining, and it's like, well, there's supposed to be so much tolerance in it. So now I'm just going to mark that hole for the inside of the box, hopefully. Yeah, that's pretty close. So we've marked that. You all know how to use calipers like that, I take it. We won't go over that. So now that needs to be a tenon. So we need to leave it as a tenon. We're going to go back to our tool here. Larry, can I put the light down there? Is that going to blind everybody? Is that better? Okay, great. So now we're going to, again, it's a tenon, and my burr is up. Even though I'm scraping, that burr helps. We need a little more speed. And I don't want to go very deep. I literally want about a 1/16 of an inch deep tenon is all. And I'm going to go just shy of my line. And then we're going to come over here. And we're going to take our box and make sure we haven't errored already. We haven't. And now when I do a tenon to fit, my trick is I always start with my tool at an angle like that. That helps me to have the short point of the tenon out here, and I try to line it up first. So that it'll start to go in, and when I know it's starting to go in, then I know I'm getting very close. So now that I put that at an angle, when it doesn't fit, I straighten it out and I go at an angle again. So we straighten out and we go at an angle again. And we do this until it fits or till it starts. Question? So you're just chamfering that bottom edge? Correct. I'm angling it in. So it started. So right now I can tell you that it's almost there. It's 3/4 of the way, which tells me that if I go all the way square with it, I've taken off too much. I need to taken off, sorry. I need to barely touch this inside edge, probably that much. And that's going to be enough to go over it. See, that was loose. Almost loose. It's actually perfect, which is what we want. We want just a little bit of room for glue. And it's about a 1/16 of an inch deep that it's going to go in there. Perfect. So, next thing we need to do, we're going to leave that alone. As we come over to the box, this is why we made the box first. And we're going to measure our recess. And we're going to go just a hair over. Okay.
You're going to glue to that.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm going to run a bead of glue right around that recess and insert it here shortly. So now we need to mark it. Okay. And then we can do the same thing again. Ooh, I almost went too much earlier. Okay. Test fit again. That's really close. So we're going to angle it again. And I want this one a little bit deeper. I know I want this about 3/16 ideally. So we're going to go ahead and make it about 3/16. And I'm going to go at that angle just a hair again. See if it'll start. It starts, but that's it. That's dead on it. So it barely starts. So now we can go almost straight. And see if it'll go over. That's too tight. But, is what I've been doing, and I like this, is that on these ones, I've been making this a bead. At the very least, we need this edge rounded off so that when we drop this down, it will make its way into the hole and not get caught on the edge, right? If it's round, it can't get caught on the square edge. It's going to make itself go in. So I've been making this a bead. So as what I do is I come in with an 8-inch or 3/16 parting tool, or beading tool, sorry. These are D-Way tools. Alan Carter has them now that are Doug's. So I would look at them if I was going to buy them again today. This tool is actually just a hair bigger than that tenon is. So we're going to go ahead and take it a little bit bigger. Boy, I almost took off too much earlier on that. That's it. Now we're going to come in here and do a little rocking back and forth and a little up and down. And Doug could do this 100 times better than I can. But we're just after getting this to where it's round. If I was doing basket illusion, I'd be moving my tool rest up and down like Doug does, and it really does help a lot, but we're doing one bead and it's a demo. And right about there, I'm almost round. I'm going to stop and check it. And there is our bead, and it goes down on perfect. So that's exactly where we wanted to be. Now we're done with that. And we can come in. Any questions up to there? Now we can come in and we have to shape our finial. We have to decide what we want.
So does your outer piece match pretty well?
Perfect. It dropped right down in the hole. This one, yes. So, and right now the bead is sticking proud by about a 32nd.
It's curved out.
It looks fine. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about matching it.
It's nice that the bead basically makes it touchable on line.
It is, yeah. If it made it like on this box, it made it come all the way down perfectly flush, and that was a nice fit. But what we've got right now is that. It sticks proud just a little bit. And that's okay. We're going to roll with that and just keep it that way. And that's going to be our design of this one. So it's the same thing here. I'm going to use just the edge of the parting tool. That way I'm not parting tool, but 1/4 inch tool. And just, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm not tailstock supported. But I'm going to start making it towards my shape right away. I'm kind of staying away from the bottom because I want to be able to make that curve in, and I want to do that when I get further down where I can get a nice clean cut as a final cut. So I'm just using the point again and using it to do my work, and when you hear it making that vibration, that's the whole tool engaging, and I need to tilt it one way or the other to keep that from happening. Yes, sir. Absolutely. How's that? Does that help? Are we blurred out? No. Okay. So again, I'm just rocking back and forth, and that's making me use that point. It's not really engaging full contact, hardly at all. Now I want to take this finial. It's a finial. You can make it any shape you want. You can make a round ball. You can make a candle. You can do just a regular tapered finial. I like the tapered ones, and I'm going to try for that again. Notice I said try. Mother Nature has her way of sometimes disputing that, so we'll see. One thing I did not do, and we probably need to think about it, is I didn't clean up the bottom. And I should have already done that before I took it down so far. Probably. We're going to just do a light scrape. Because this is seen, and I'm trying not to touch my outside edge where it goes into the box. Because I really don't want to change that fit out there. I'm actually making it a little bit concave. And that's okay. For this demo, that's fine. Now we can go back to what we were doing. If we try to do that later, when this is thin, we're going to get too much vibration and it's going to just get chatter. I think for this demo, we're going to call that about good, close to the last size that we want. And we'll make it a little bit bigger. And we'll scrape this a little cleaner. And then we're going to do our last cuts with a spindle gouge. So here we know that the bead, top of the bead is actually proud a little bit of the box top. So we want to not touch the bead to deform it, but we want to go right to it and start. That's our starting point. We have to decide whether we want it flat or whether we want it shaped a little bit. And I'm just taking light cuts, starting with it almost straight up and down and then opening it up. And I think we have one more cut, and we're going to increase the speed a little bit. All right, for this demo, we're going to call that good. That's a pretty decent cut. It's got a little bit of tool line right there. So we could sand him out or we could have took another cut. That's our choice. But for now, we know that we've got our fits right, and we can look at the shape and decide whether it's pleasing to the eye or not. And that's actually almost perfectly matching the shape of the bottom. So I would call that a success to my eyes. The next thing is we go ahead and take this piece out. If you're going to do any sanding, do them now. Sand it all the way. If you're going to do any oiling or anything on it, put your finish on it, you could do that now too. Just keep away from the glue joint. I would keep any of your finished products away from that. I don't typically finish the inside of my boxes. I don't know. I've got this thing about letting wood kind of breathe on one side if I can. It's just, I don't know where I got it. I just kind of like to do that. So if I've got, an edge, an area that I can leave unfinished with no finish on it, I would typically do that. In the case of boxes, I like to do that. But on the boxes, a lot of my other boxes, I'll do an oil finish on the inside and maybe a little wax, and I think that's fine. But okay, we're pretty close to true. I could have used this to put it up here and make sure I'm running dead true. And that's something that is nice to do sometimes. I want to go ahead and take this one off right now. We're going to need this here in a minute, but we don't need it quite yet. And now we go back on with this one. Oh, I didn't put the divot back. Yeah, I did. It's got my divot. So, here's where the divot comes in. This should fit really nicely in here, and it does. And we want to get this up close. And now we're going to take super glue. I just use thick. I like Star Bond. It's just what I like because I like it comes with free tips and that they usually don't clog. Use whatever brand you like. And I just want to ideally get it right down in that corner. And I'm putting it on a little bit thick. Normally I would probably take a little bit better time. Maybe not get quite so much. And now we're going to line up that and go ahead and find our hole. All right. And hope anybody bothered by accelerator in the front row? Okay. Now, before I forget, the next thing that I would have done right away was come in here with like some 240 or something and turn this on and clean any extra glue on the outside off. I don't like seeing the glue, and it just takes a second to sand that glue off. And if there's any underneath, you get it too. Try not to do too much shaping of the bead. Okay, then the next thing is we're going to come in and we're going to turn this off. I usually just use the spindle gouge right away. How are we doing on time? Just under an hour? Okay. Start thinking about your shape. And if I'm going to match the shape, I start shaping towards that shape right now. Well, that wasn't matching it at all. I don't care about chip out at the top right now. I'm not caring about that because there's a divot in the end. I've got to cut it shorter one way or the other. So that's not going to affect what happens at this point with my tool. Chipping out. And I got a little deep. That's okay though. I mean, that's not terrible, but we can live with it for the demo. I think it's too fat at the bottom, personally, right now. At home, I would probably take it down narrower. But that's okay. So if we're going to have a square top, flat top, we need to go ahead and cut that here. It's easier to do it now. What's that? Yeah, if we're going to do a sloped on it like these are, I do that very last, and I take it at home. I have a 6-inch disc sander and I have a 12-inch or 10-inch, and I take it to usually my 6, and I just shape it to the size the shape I want by holding it flat on the paper. And then if I need to, I'll touch it up to get any grooves out. But I have 120 in my sandpaper, I think, grit, and it leaves a pretty decent finish right away. So that would be the last thing. So right now I'm not worried about that square. I would do that on that sander. The next thing is that we need to do something that I didn't do. I needed to measure how deep the hole actually did go and mark it. So, because we didn't do that and we know that this went all the way in, I'm just going to cut it as long as I can and pray that we don't see a divot in the end. I missed a step. But you guys follow me on what I'm saying there. Normally I would have done that before I put the cap on.
Before you take that off,
Yes?
if you were to put the grooves you put, vertical
Right.
grooves, would you do that now?
I would absolutely do it now. So if we have an hour left, 45 minutes? Okay. So we got a little bit of time. So is what we're going to do is I'll show indexing on a wood lathe. People keep asking me, did you do that on your Rose engine? Well, yeah, I can do the fluting on my Rose engine, and I can do it a lot cleaner. And that's because my Rose engine, I can turn, it has a computer program in it basically, and I can say I want 32.5 degrees apart segments, and I'll just hit advance and it'll divide them out for me. Or I can say I want every 5 degrees, and it'll do that. Or I can say I want 80 lines, 80 segments, and it'll do that. So it's kind of nice. In this case, we don't have that. But as what I do have is I have this, and I have not a fancy tool like Doug does, but I have my division wheel. And this is graphpapermaker.com, I think. Circular radius graph, I think they call it. I said 80 divisions is what I wanted, and that's what it gave me. And it'll do however many lines you want this way too. Typically, my beads that I was doing on my basket illusion were an 1/8 inch apart, so I divided it by whatever to get 1/8 inch apart so that I could actually draw on this too if I was doing a platter. So, and then I printed it out on paper, stuck it to a piece of that 1/4 or 1/8 inch masonite or whatever it's called, hardboard, and drilled a 1 1/4 inch hole on it. It's a little bit tight to go over the threads, but it goes right over. And then when it finds the shaft, and in this case it's not going to go over this one, it goes over my Laguna one, which is fine. We just need to mate it up. So we're going to take this up now. And because the threads were bigger than the shaft here, we need to kind of align the inside. I can usually move it up and down just a little bit to where it's a little bit more accurate. This is actually going to push it over, I think. Maybe not. That's close. It's not quite centered on the radius, but that's okay. It's close enough for this. I made this at my house, so it has a magnet on the bottom of it. This fits the shape of my Laguna base right here. So I can literally butt this right up to my Laguna. It sticks and that mounts right on there. And it'll touch this completely, and it's right dead center. Unfortunately, that's not going to work on this one. We're going to have to do it this way, probably, and use the back side. And it's not centered either. Interesting. It's not on spindle height. That's an issue. Yeah, mine's a 16 and this an 18 prior, 20. Yeah. Okay. What's that? Can the camera look in? So that's an issue for holding it. We're going to have to just find another way to work around that. A workaround might be, where's my 3-inch block? Is this too tall? Yes. I know, right? That's okay. Is this too tall? Yeah. That's pretty close to center. We're going to call that good enough. Okay. So the idea here is that this magnet would hold this down, right? And then I use my fancy tool here, and I would put it right on my degree. Now in this case, I've got divisions already kind of outside the line. There's the big lines on the outside are my are divisions into 4. So they're made for doing this. So that gives me four segments. And is what I do to do them is I have this wheel. You're going to need some sort of a rotary carver. This is a RAM unit. I like it. It was one of the cheaper ones. It goes to 35,000 RPM. Which is great. Again, it's not centered now because of our issues that we had earlier. So we're going to have to find something to get center. And that's too high. Shit. I need a block of wood. Like 1.5 inches. I know, right? We got to have a scrap of wood around here. Something 1.5 inches or something. 1.5 inches by 3 or by a foot. Or 1 inch. Here we go over here. Margaret's got something. That one will work too. Either one of these. That one's too big. How about that one? That one's too big. Take that one off. All right, let me see that one. Okay, that one is, so close. Yeah, maybe 1.5 inches. Let's try 1.5 inches.
Just don't damage it.
Yeah, I don't want to buy it. That's probably close enough for this. We'll call that good for now. So at home, this all works with my setup on my Laguna. Obviously, that does not for here, but that's fine. For this, what we're going to show it will. Can you plug that in? So the 4-sided lid, I was going to say, is what I would do is I'd put this little sanding disc. This happens to be 60 grit is what I normally use. And I would put it in here and literally just run it back and forth at this angle until I got it close to what I think is the depth I need to be. I would go 180 degrees off that, do the other side, and then go do the other 2 sides and try to line it up square. And just get as close as I can with it. That's how I did that one. So that's if we wanted to do it. This one has these are CNC bits. They're 1/8 inch, so they'll fit my tool. This one has a 60-degree point in it. Where's the camera? So that's what's in this one right now. So it'll actually make a pretty good.
Put your hand behind.
I can. This will make a pretty good, just a single line groove. Okay, so that's what's in there with that one. I can also get them in a round over, which is this one. Now they come in like 4 different sizes, I think, everywhere from like, I don't know, a 32nd to, I don't know, 1/8 inch or something. So this one's a round bit, so it's a round nose. So it makes some interesting flutes as well. I like it. I usually go with like the 16th inch, and this one's a flat bottom. So it would actually just leave a square channel, which is cool too. It depends on your project and what you want to do. Anyhow, I think you get the idea there. The key here that I found is going right to left, so we want to do that. Typically at home, does this lathe have an emergency stop on it even? No. At home I hit my emergency stop because I have a bad habit of, I need to turn on the tool. So I want to turn on my lathe. Well, that's not a good thing to do at this point. So I don't do that. So I normally would turn the emergency stop off on my lathe so that I'm making me come over here. Now, if you see here, is it one back there? That's okay. You can leave it on. I'll just make sure. I've made a depth stop. So the depth stop just keeps this bit from going in too deep, and it'll make all my channels the same depth. That's my idea. That's what I want to do. Unfortunately with it, I made it a little bit wide, so when I get down to the bottom, it stops, and it's going to find a spot that I can't go any further on. Hence why design change. It's got a straight-sided bottom, which I think is very attractive in this case, and I like. So I'm not worried about it. You need to overcome that some way if you're going to try to go all the way. So right now I'm at 13,000 RPM. And we're just going to come in here. Now, this also has a mag switch on it, so it'll stick to my bed lathe. So at home, this is really nice. My table just sits nice and flat, and I just move this back and forth, and I don't have to hold all this. And we're off center by a 30-second low, but you'll get the idea anyhow. And that's not even enough. It's so far off center that it's not hitting the center of it. Either that or my tool is out a little bit. We need to pop that back in. There we go. And that's all I literally do. It's not making a deep enough channel because I'm too low by just a hair. So, too low by just a hair. Can't take that one. That one's lower. So I think you get the idea anyhow. So I would do the line, and then I'm going to go ahead and advance here, spin this over to my next division that I want, clamp it back in, and continue all the way around until I'm done. I can tell you that in this process here of this one, it's every 5th hole. So that I wound up doing on this 80 wheel to give my flutes that, and I like that distance apart. Yep. Now, the inside detail here I did with a 1/16 inch beading tool. So I did with this guy. So if we wanted this top beaded to match, now would be the time that we're going to come in and lay our beads in to do that. How much time do we have? Okay, we better go ahead and continue on, I guess, since this is not going to cooperate because of the height change. Note to self on the next one to change all that. Can you unplug me over there, Ed? Thank you.
So we don't end up buying it.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. There's always a hiccup, right? But I think you get the idea. That's the fluting setup that you want to do. Something similar for your wood lathe. It's not that hard to set something up. All my basket illusion stuff, this is how I do them as far as the degree wheel. The ideal situation is if I had 200 and whatever dollars Doug wants for his, I would absolutely have his system because it's a nice degree wheel. How much? 150. That's not bad, actually. That came down. I might have to save up now. But, and I actually have like 3 of these wheels that I made up, and Doug's wheel helps you with that. How many divisions? How many sets? Yeah, so you have a lot of options with it. That's nice. I think I have 100, one that's 100. I think I have one that's 120. I don't remember now. I've got 3 or 4 of them. Wow. Yeah, that's very nice. Right now, we could go ahead and bead some on this if we wanted to. I can show that at least, since we have time, I think. Maybe move the light again so you guys can see. Did I unplug it? Turn it off? I unplugged it. How are we looking there? Too bright? How about that? That looks better. If it's not in the way of my tool. Next question, did I bring the 16th? I did. Okay. The D-Way ones are really nice. I hear that the Carter ones are probably just as nice, if not superior. We can come in wherever we want and start. I would probably start up here if we're going to go all the way. I'm going to say we're not going to go all the way. We'll just maybe go to there. If we wanted to, now would be the time to say, oh, we just want lines. So if we just did lines here, it might be cool not to make these beads, just use this as a division tool. And either way, we're going to go ahead and divide them out however we want. And now is the time you divide them out before you make full beads, as Doug would say. And then you go back once you've done that and you go to the depth, start going to the depth you want and working on that. I think we're going to call that a kind of an attractive look. And we're just going to say that's it for this one. Now would probably be a good time to hit it with like some 320 or something, just to take any burr off, or 400. We're not going to worry about that. We can probably come back up here now. And now we're going to use a parting tool and just part this off as close as we can. Big breath, somebody big breath. Now, as what I found was, I told somebody earlier this, a couple of these up here have a flat bottom. Okay, that's great. If you watch it, it goes down pretty quick. Now, the question is, does it go down pretty quick because I sanded too far? Possibly. This one has a round bottom. It's domed. And what I found is, my theory is, they go down a little bit slower. I think it's trying to push more air out too fast, and it can't. So I've been making them domed. And that's just how I want to do them from now on. And all I do to make them dome is I start making this more of a point, headed towards a point. I'm not coming in straight in. And now I'm going to widen this up again. I'm going to keep working as wide as I can. And we'll probably stop there and go ahead and just cut it off. Because if I don't, it's a demo and it'll fly out and hit somebody. Right? Okay. So at home, at this point, I would take this literally over to my disc sander, and I would touch up the bottom. And I would try to just take my, get rid of that square line. And then I have this sander, and this is what I use for, this is my rotary sander for my lathe. This is what I use, and it's been great for like 6 years in now. And I can start coming in with it and actually shaping. And this is probably a 240 grit wheel, so it's not going to take it down at all. But I can literally start working that round edge in. Can you see that on camera? And I'm just rotating it from top to bottom as I rotate it round to try to keep the shape, the dome. And I've already got that quick most of it out. At home I would probably go up a grit because we're doing ingrain here. I would go to 120 or something and just take that down a little faster. Just doesn't matter though. What? Yes. That thing's been through heck and back. I have a whole set of. Okay, so now is a big test. So is it going to do, what's it going to do? And it's too tight. It's not going to do nothing. It's going to smoke. I'm not going to blow it from there. I'll blow it right in my face. And we're too tight is the point. We're too tight. And that's almost always the case. And I'm too long. Barely. It's not enough weight. So it goes down. I can force it down. It's just a little bit. And it's too long. So because I did not measure the depth, I made it extra long. And now I would either have to come back in here and measure this and make it deeper, or we've got to make this hole in it first and measure down in there and figure out how far I can actually, how much I could take off and try to take that off. Yeah, we're 3.5 inches. We need 3.5, we need a hair over 3.5 for it to from this recess to clear. And I'm at 3 1/8. So if we go down to 3 1/2 or a little over, we have plenty of room. So look at that. We still have plenty of room. So the simple solution is we put it back in and we go ahead and just drill it deeper, right? That's an easy fix. I don't think we need to do that right now. I think is what you guys want to see more is how do we get this to fit, right? How do we get that to go down in there where we want it? That's what's important at the moment. We all can know how to drill and get the hole to the right depth. If we have time, we'll do that at the end. So, we have time? Oh, we got lots of time. I bet you this takes 10 minutes though to get it to the right shape. I don't know about you guys, but when I start mine, I use the hand wheel. And I line it up where I think I'm good over here, and then I start with a hand wheel and thread it on. And that's just so that I found out right away on my Nova lathe that I had, and I was still fairly new, that I used to start it here. And I would hold it, and I'm trying to hold it straight, and I'm trying to get them in. And I wound up kind of stripping those first two threads out, trying to get it straight. So I find it much easier to hold it up there, turn it with a hand wheel, and I can get it on right away. And I don't take that chance. So, so I put this back in. We have two choices. This is choice number 1. We go down to like 80 grit because we have quite a bit to take off. Sandpaper, and we start sanding. And we're going to wrap it around it and keep it round and go the full distance and keep rotating it. I'm rotating it with my left hand as I'm doing that. That's choice number 1. That's the manual labor way. It really is the manual labor way. But it keeps it nice and straight. Okay. Choice number 2 is we're going to come back to this tool. And we're going to turn the lathe way down again. Remember, we got to kind of go in straight without touching. Ideally, we go in straight here, trying not to touch, and then I'm touching the bottom, and I'm holding it on the bottom.
So, since you have a boring head,
You can't get that depth in it. Maybe. I think my longest one is maybe 3 inches. This is a 3.5 inch hole. So you could use a boring head if you have a long enough tip, a long enough cutter. You absolutely could. If you don't know what a boring head is, ring turners use them a lot. Somebody say something? Yeah, the cutter is, even my big one, my biggest cutter I think is maybe 3 inches of cutting length. It has to go in the bar another 1/2 inch. So I've been sitting here doing this whole time, right? So I've probably taken a little bit off, you would think. Well, we need to take quite a bit off. Now, Marty was saying earlier that I ran my hand in here and I cleaned that outside edge up, so I made it narrower at this front, and he's absolutely right. Well, that should be taking it back out, though. We should be getting rid of that. That's why I don't worry about that too much. So now we need to, obviously, we test fit, and this is like doing a box. If we go too far, we can't put it back on. So we have to just keep taking it off and testing it. We could just push it in by hand and see, but we already know I can push it in. So it's just how much pressure am I putting on it with my hand. The best test is still to do this. It's going. It's absolutely going. We're getting close. So my rule is that I've came up with, and it went down too slow. So we absolutely need to take a little bit off. But what I've came to find out is when I get it to where it'll go down nicely, just a little bit faster than that, then I'll do it like 4 times. I rotate it like a quarter turn each time, and I see if it's going to go down all 4 times, because I might be a little bit egg-shaped by doing this by hand. And if I am, it may hang up in spots. So my thought is that if it goes down in all 4 spots, chances are we're going to be good. And that's what we're after. It's not going to hang up. So this is 120, I think. So typically I do a finish on the outside of the box and not on the inside here. And I usually try to make that stop at that recess right there on the inside of the recess. So when I'm doing my finish on the outside of the box, I try to carefully get it all the way to the inside there right before it's going in. And then there's always a little bit that seems to, because I've been doing friction polish on these. If there's always a little bit that seeps into the wood on the outside, and guess what? I oval it out a little bit, like Marty said, and just take my sandpaper. Quickly it takes that oil off the outside, and it still makes it a nice clean edge.
do you finish the outside of the inside?
I don't. I have not been finishing the outside of this box either, just up here. And here's why. We go to all this trouble to make this fit right. If I put an oil finish on here, I guarantee you it swell the fibers. And our fit is not there no more. It will not happen. So if you're going to put a finish on it, you're going to have to rework the fit. I can tell you that 100%.
How about a wax finish?
Even probably a wax finish. Maybe you might get away with it with a wax finish, but
So if you move to Hawaii where it's really humid, it's likely to...
yep, if you move to Hawaii, you probably got a problem.
So, speaking of Hawaii,
As tight as I make them.
I got one of those from a person, and
Sure.
When I went out there in Detroit and I went to the shop and stuff. When I brought it home,
It shrank.
it shrank and it falls.
Yep. So only thing you can do is make a bigger one. Yeah, you could try putting an oil finish on it.
I don't know, Larry. How's the one that I gave you? Still works fine.
Oh, we're getting close. I think we're still a little bit too tight because it's a little bit too slow for my taste.
You're also going to lose weight when you take out the center for the access for your toothpick.
But barely. That's not a tenth of a gram probably a weight. Yep. So I would still go a little bit more because it's a little bit too slow for me. Okay, we got plenty of time. So we're going to go a little bit more. Carefully insert, touch the bottom first. See how it wiggle there to begin with? It's going to want to grab, and then when it does, it's just kind of going everywhere, and it doesn't really do anything other than just make you freak out. But it just kind of gets chattering around in a hole, and that's not good. So the beauty of this is if you're way off, I can literally take this over here and take it out of here and put it in my drill and power sand it. So that's kind of a nice feature to know. So I tried a larger mandrel and it was worse because it wanted to hang up. It wanted to get caught, bound up. If you don't go in absolutely straight, it catches, and when it does, you get it tilted, and then it just bounces around in there. Yeah, you could. I also tried making a mandrel this was spinning over here now, and I'm holding the box over here. And that's how they work to begin with, and it was even probably worse. I found the best control is still here. Now, when we get this close, we have one more thing we have to really do. You can't see it probably, I doubt with the camera, but in there's now radial scratches going in this, even though this is like 120 grit. So before we're all done, we want to get it real close, and then we're going to come in, and with a lathe off, we're having to do this. And we just keep rotating it to try to keep it round, and we're going to sand those little grooves out. That's how we get rid of them, so you don't see them. I'm trying to keep that as dead flat as I can, though, so that we're not taking off more on the inside or the outside. And that cleaned them up really good. I do have to drill to depth on it. I wasn't going to worry about it tonight here. Yeah, I do. So I'm just doing the sanding to show you how to get the fit, because I thought you'd want to get the fit more than you want to see me drill more. So that's what we're after. Yeah, and that's about right. That's pretty close. And then I would turn it a quarter turn and try again. See, it went down a little faster that time. And then I'd turn it another quarter turn and do it again. And that's perfect. We like that. I like that. It's the depth of that. So, thank you. So that's how I make them. The last thing I would do is my finish. So finish doing your sanding, whatever sanding you want. And then I've been doing a friction. This was a friction on this one. These two were oil. I do a food safe finish on them because they do hold toothpicks. And if they get a toothpick touching the outside, I mean, at least we know we're covered, right? Go ahead. Question. So I do that on a spindle sander. And I usually shoot for a 1-inch spindle at that point because I like the hole to be a half round when I'm done. And I usually try to make it go to where the hole actually goes all the way up to my tenon, but I try not to touch it. In this case, I touched it, but that's okay. I would do that right now. After I've done, I would do that right now, before I put a finish on this top, probably. Yep. And then if I'm doing a friction polish, usually it's tight enough I can tell you that I'll put it in. and I can go ahead and just turn my lathe on slow, and I can apply my finish. And as I'm doing my finish, then when I'm ready to heat it up, because you know friction polish needs to be heated up, right? So if it's a square top, then I would just kind of hold my finger on here lightly to where I'm just holding this in. Otherwise, the trick is to, when you're getting ready to put your finish on the outside, and if it's loose at all, you can take a piece of blue tape right like there, like you're painting, like you're going to make that a paint line. Tape that off, and then it'll hold it snugly in there, and you can apply your friction polish and sand it all the way. Blue tape usually will go in. When I'm done with them, it usually fits. So that's a good trick with that. I would preferably like to see you, if you're going to do a food safe finish. I mean, oil, wax, friction polish, shellac. You know, you got choices, but I'm not one that really likes built-up film finishes either. But all right, well, thank you guys.